Copyright 2010, University of South Australia. This recording may contain third-party copyright material. Apart from any use permitted under the Copyright Act 1968, no part of this recording may be reproduced or rebroadcast by any means or process without the prior written permission of the University of South Australia and the copyright owners.
We have attentive audience. I hope you clap when I'm finished. That will be good. Two of my kids over here have a bet that I'll last 5 minutes without crying. I've probably got 10. So if you want to have a bet, you can put it on me. I'm Donna. I'm a mum. I have 10 children. So if you haven't fallen off the seat yet, you probably will with that comment. Oh, that me? Jeez. What am I doing? Better? Yeah. Sorry, that woke you all up now, didn't it, on a Monday morning? I have 6 boys and 4 girls, and I think my boys are easier to raise than my girls. Sorry, girls. The boys have a, little tiff. They get over it really quickly. My beautiful girls that are absolutely gorgeous are not here to defend themselves today, but they keep it going for a few days. So I reckon boys are easier than girls. Now I have a child with a disability and happens to be number 10. Caleb is sitting over here in a wheelchair, and 9 other kids have gone through school. They've gone through public school and private school, so I've had a bit of both worlds. I run a group called the Kit Kat group, which is a support group for parents with kids with disabilities or chronic illnesses. I've been doing that for 2 years now, and before that running support groups within Navita Children's Services for families with kids with disabilities. I also am running with my good friend Sam a group called Inclusion Education Support Group, and that's for parents that are having trouble coping with the education system and getting inclusion within the classroom for their kids. It's a really consistent problem that I hear from all parents that I mix with, and across the board I meet with a lot of parents in a year, and it's a continual concern about the inclusion within the classroom. And that's irrelevant whether it's a private school, public school, special class or a special school. So it is right across the board. It's not exclusive to one certain area, it's right across. So we've set up this support group, and it's the main thing that I want to tell you out of those 2 support groups that I run is that parents actually have the information. You might think you're going to go through how many years at uni, but I need to tell you that the parents, we actually have the information. We actually know our child the best. We actually know how you can include them in your classroom. You just have to take the time to talk to us. And that is, if you don't listen to anything else I say, that is one statement I want you to hear, is that we as parents do actually have the information. And secondly, you actually have to talk to us. Now you might think that's really strange, but as I go on, I'm going to use the scenario of good teacher and a bad teacher. Caleb's now in grade 4, and we've been in, I sent him to the school which my other children went to, which is a private school. This year I've actually changed schools and put him into another one because of him being excluded. So I'm going to talk to you about good teacher and bad teacher and show you some scenarios. And when you go to your placement, I want you to keep your eyes out and see if you can pick a good teacher and a bad teacher when you're looking at children with disabilities. Have you looked at Caleb? Who of you have seen him sitting in the wheelchair? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Obviously he can't walk. Sorry? Very good looking. He is, isn't he? He is gorgeous. You'll love that, don't you, darling? He's now 10, and I will show my ignorance Before Caleb came along, if I saw a child or even an adult in a wheelchair, I presumed they had an intellectual disability as well as a physical one. Who, like me, had that thought? One. Only one? You're kidding me. If you saw someone in a wheelchair, you would think that they had a normal intelligence? Would you really? If you're coming from having experienced a person in your world with a disability, then you would not have that. If you've never ever come across a person in a wheelchair and you've never spoken to them, I would guarantee you would presume there will be some sort of intellectual disability there. If they were non-verbal, how would you think? Would you think they have an intellectual disability? Nodding. My little boy over here was non-verbal till he was 4. We taught him sign language until he was 4. He went to kindy. Suddenly, somebody turned a light switch on inside his brain and out came sentences. He now has, after some testing, a superior intelligence, talks a lid off an iron pot, has a reading level, he's in grade 4, a reading level of grade 7. So that makes you think, doesn't it? His brain was a bit slow to kick in, but he actually has a normal intelligence. Just some thoughts to think about. Caleb has I've lasted 5 minutes, haven't cried. Yes! Won my bet. Caleb's had some pretty rough road. He has some very severe medical conditions, has just had 5 months in hospital and has been out of school for a year because he's been too medically unstable to go to school. He's just started back this term and we've homeschooled him for all of that time, which has been a wonderful challenge to me, very, very stretching my patience and tolerance. So you as teachers, I take my hat off already because, wow, homeschooling was really hard. At the beginning, Caleb was really different when he was born. I'd raised 9 other kids and I still couldn't figure out how to work out this child who couldn't sit properly, who hardly made a noise, who couldn't crawl, couldn't move around, he couldn't eat properly, he's fed through a tube in his stomach. He needed oxygen strapped to his face all the time. He needs a BiPAP to sleep at night, which is a portable ventilator that actually keeps his lungs working and open. He has epilepsy and asthma. He has chronic lung disease. And that's only a small list of the stuff that's wrong with him. He has a urogenic bladder that doesn't work properly. He has a nervous system that goes absolutely haywire, hence the 5 months in hospital. I've just walked into your classroom and I've sat down and gone, Caleb's coming to your class this year and this is what is wrong with him. Have I blown your mind? Have you want to run a mile? Because I've already ran my mile. I think I actually ran 1,000 miles that way. Because I know how to raise kids. I've raised 9 of them. And they're all really different. I've never raised a disabled child. I'm sitting in your classroom. I've not had Caleb at school. I don't know how to do this because I'm still figuring him out. I've just landed a bombshell on you. You don't know how to do it either. So what is one thing you have to do? Only one thing. And it's the word partnership. It's partnership. Because you don't know and I don't know, but together we can do this. The relationship that you will have with the parent of a disabled child, whether that's intellectually disabled, physically disabled. Can I just say, I think a child with a physical disability in a mainstream school is actually harder for that child to cope with than a child with an intellectual disability in the class. Because they have a level of understanding and that's where they're at. Their world is happy if you don't rock it. A child with a physical disability and a normal intelligence is where you are, but with tight restraints. So just remember that. I think, my comment before, having a parent with a child with a disability in your class, you have to have 100% communication. You can get away with having a parent of normal kids and having 20% communication. It's not ideal, and I would kick your butt if I heard you doing that. But, you know, you should at least have 60, 70%. But today's society, parents aren't always around. And in the disability sector, a lot of the times you won't actually see the parent either. The child actually in the state schools comes by taxi. So the parent doesn't even have to drop them off at school. In Caleb's case, he has a nurse sit next to him in class all the time because of his medical status. So a nurse sits next to him and the nurse is there. So you might only see me a little bit of the time. It's still really important to have 100% communication with me because there's a telephone. Did you know there's a telephone? Do you? Do you know how easy it is to pick up the phone and talk to a parent? Most teachers never do it. I can tell you that. I've had 25 years of schooling as a parent. Most teachers don't do it. If you've got a child with a disability, it's crucial that you are on communication with them and don't make the excuse that you don't see them, because you can talk to them. And in today's world, we have emails. I'm still in the 18th century, so you can't send me an email. But, you know, you can email them too. The kinder year was amazing. I'm going to start at the very beginning. I know some of you are grade 3 onwards, but I'm going to start at kindy because it set up a wonderful position for me, because I had an amazing director at the kindy who embraced me. When I walked in, I never made an appointment. I just rock up at a school and go, "Hi, I want to talk to the disability coordinator or the principal if they're free. I've got a child with a disability and I want to see what you've got to offer him, because we've got to offer your school lots." And they go, "Whoa." Do you know the best school go, "Hi, come in, let's grab a cup of coffee and I'll sit and talk with you." They get a tick on my list. The reaction that I get is, "Oh no, I'm sorry, you must make an appointment. Come back in a month's time and I can fit you in." That's a cross. Because if you can't make time for me now, because problems arise in the classroom, when do they arise? Right now. When do you want to sort them out? Not in a month's time. That's not good enough. Problem is now, and I want to fix it now, and I want to see you at the end of the day or tomorrow or 2 days' time, but that's it. So that was a big cross. I ruled schools out really quickly with that. Sounds funny, doesn't it? But it's very true. The person in the front office actually sets the standard on how the school is perceived by a parent. The kindy was amazing because they didn't know how to do this. They got all of the providers in to help us, Navita Children's Services, the disability coordinator at the DEC system. They all came in, got all our physios in, got myself and my husband in, child and youth health, because we knew Caleb's health condition. We had a meeting set up within a week. I'm going, "What? This is so good." How great was that? We had a great kinder year. Not once did I feel Caleb was excluded. You might think kindy's really easy because it's just play. It isn't actually. Because at kindy there's all these parents around. There's all these parents at kindy with lots of thoughts about disabled children. "Oh, you can't play with that child." They would tell their kids that. "Oh, don't play with him. Oh, I heard he's sick, don't go near him." And you'd hear it while you're standing there waiting to go into class. Yeah, you shake your head, it's horrible. It is horrendous. And you'd park in this disabled park and the parents would walk past going, "What is she using that for?" I think, oh, give me a break. And you walk into kindy and it was like you could feel this negativity from some parents. It's horrible. But the kindy teachers embraced him. They grabbed him and said, "Come on, Caleb, let's go and find something." They found his passion for reading. They found his passion for writing on the computer. And they excelled him. It was wonderful. When I hit school, we had a teacher. Please don't ever do this. This teacher, she was new to our school. I'd been in the school system for 20 years in that school, so I knew all the teachers. She came in, she was brand new. She said she'd worked with disabled children at her last school. So, of course, she inherited Caleb. I was told this and I thought, great. Well, how wonderful is that? She's already worked with disabled kids. I don't have to break anything down. Do you know what her experience was? She was a music teacher at her last school, which meant she saw, just one class once a week. And at that school of 600, there was one child that she saw once a week for half an hour that had a disability. So when she came to our school and got a full class, teaching reception grade 1, she'd put her hand up and said, "I know how to teach a disabled child." For the first 6 months, she didn't talk to Caleb. She talked to the nurse, who happened to be sitting next to him. "Can you tell Caleb to write down those letters on the board? Can you tell Caleb to do this? Can you tell Caleb to go and get his reader? Can you tell Caleb that we're doing maths now and to write down his numbers?" I used to go to her, "He can talk. Just say hello to him." We'd walk into the classroom and she wouldn't even speak to us. So let's go back a step. When I first put the application into the school, I met with the teacher. I gave her that introduction that I gave you about his medical condition, and it blew her mind, understandably. Do you know what she did though? She was at a barbecue. Somebody asked her about what class she was teaching. "Do you know I've got a child with a disability in my class? I'm so excited. But he's really sick. He's got this and this and this and this wrong with him." Guess who was sitting in the barbecue? Somebody that knew our family. Hence, I got a phone call that week. "I didn't know Caleb was starting school, and I didn't know he had these medical conditions. Why didn't you tell me about him, Donna?" How dare she? How dare she do that to our family? Now I'll cry. See, I lasted. What happened to our privacy? Every single one of you will be in that situation. You will be in a barbecue when somebody asks you about your class. You will be in that position. How are you going to say, "Yes, I've got a child with a disability in my class"? You can say that, but don't you dare name him. And don't you dare say what's wrong with him, because that's our business. And I've shared with you, that's you and me. That's privacy. No more. You don't say it anywhere else. You don't say it in the community, because you don't know who's sitting in the barbecue and you don't know who knows who. And I'm sure you know that Adelaide is really tiny. And do you know what? It's even bigger than that. One of my daughters was in Melbourne playing basketball the June long weekend, got injured and taken to hospital. Was very seriously injured with a chest problem. And while she was in triage, the doctor who was treating her, "Croydon, do you have a brother who's really sick?" "Yes." "She's 16. "Oh, so you got this and this wrong with him?" "Yep." "Oh, has he got so-and-so for a doctor?" She goes, "Yep." When Caleb was really sick last year, we had to send around to a group of other doctors around the world Caleb's conditions So we didn't know how to help him, how to fix him and make him better. So Caleb's case got sent around the world to all these doctors, and she was one of them. And she happened to be treating my daughter in Melbourne in hospital. Such a small world, isn't it? So don't think if you go to Victoria you're safe there either. Let's get back to this teacher that I label as bad. We opened up an opportunity for her to come and visit Caleb in kindy. She came for 20 minutes. I did hope she'd stay for the whole session, which was 2.5 hours, at least to get a glimpse of what Caleb could do. But no, half an hour, and she knew what she could do for Caleb. Half an hour. When we finally got into his class, we were only there 2 weeks, and there was an excursion. She rang me the night before and said, oh, the excursion tomorrow. I just want to ring and let you know that Caleb can't come. You can say what? I said what? And a bit more. She goes, we're going on a bus and we're going to see such and such, and we don't think Caleb's up to it. I said, and who's we? Oh, I thought he wasn't up to it. Anyway, how am I going to get a wheelchair on a bus? Hello. Really easy to book a bus with a wheelchair access through the education department. It's really easy. Pick up a phone. He couldn't go on the excursion. Had to stay home. We went to Monado Zoo. Another excursion. They ring me 2 days beforehand. Again, sorry, forgot to book the bus. Have you been to Monado Zoo? You have to go on a bus around the zoo. So we couldn't go. How do you say that to a kid? Can't go to the zoo, teacher didn't book the bus. Do you know what? If she'd have picked up the phone and said, Donna, in a month's time we're going to the zoo, how do we do this? I know, been there, done that. Ring this person, book the bus, ring Child and Youth Health, book the nurse. We need to do this and this and this. Done, we can go. Do you know how easy that is? I don't know if you've had some time in a classroom, if you've seen a teacher go, now you've got to the count of 5 to get down the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They all run, sit there like this. I wish I could get Matthew to get Caleb out of the wheelchair and get him down the front and sit him on the floor for you. Probably takes 10 minutes. From the back of the classroom, because that's where the teacher sat him, right at the very back. So she didn't have to look at him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who do you think's crying down the back seat? Because he can't get there. Repeatedly, time and time again. If you want a kid with a disability in your class, you can't do that. If he's got an intellectual disability, you can't do that. You can't throw them. If a kid's got autism or Asperger's, you can't do that. They're organised. You need to say to them, Peter, in 5 minutes' time, I'd like you at the front. Give him time. Tell him what's happening so that he knows. Organisation, that's all you have to be, is a bit more organised. We brought it to her attention. Do you think it changed? No. We had her for 1.5 years. It was absolute hell. Oh, here's a good one. We asked her for the roster for the class. Now, that's a fair call, I reckon. You know, maths for 2 lessons, science, then we're going for PE, then we're going to the library, we're coming back to the computer room. Bearing in mind it's reception 12 class, the library is the other end of the school to his classroom. The computer room is in a different place. In the middle of all this, somebody needs to go to the toilet, which is never at the right time, but needs to go to the toilet. So off he goes with his nurse to the toilet. He comes back to class, and who's in the classroom? Nobody, except 2 people, Caleb and the nurse. Where's the class? Where they gone? She didn't tell us. She didn't leave a note on the blackboard saying, "Hi guys, gone to the library." She didn't give us a class timetable. You might think that's really little, but what does he do? What does he do for the hour when we can't find the class? Or we then have to go up to the library and up to the front office and say to the front office lady, "Oh, where's class so-and-so?" They look it all up. Wouldn't it be easier if it was in the front of the diary? It took her 3 terms to get me a timetable. Only takes 2 minutes to photocopy it. Caleb has a problem with his hands. He has cerebral palsy and it affects mostly his feet. But as he's getting older, it's becoming much more noticeable that it's in his hands as well. He can't draw. In those early classes, reception 1, 2, even grade 3, they do lots of drawing. Lots of drawing. What are you going to do if you have a kid who can't draw in your class? What are you going to do? Have you thought of that? That you might have a child in your class who can't draw? Lots of cutting out. Caleb really struggles with a pair of scissors. Most kids with disabilities do. Simple things, isn't it? So your art lesson. Oh, hang on a minute. Interesting, isn't it? Little things. We come to PE. How am I going to include Caleb in PE in a wheelchair? Do you know what this teacher did? There you go, Caleb. Sit on the sideline, you can watch us. Supposed to have fitness every day and PE lesson for an hour a week. Where does he sit? Can't he run around in his wheelchair? Interesting, isn't it? So when we move classes, thank goodness for that. Never been pleased to see the end of a year. We went to this next class. School hadn't even started, and guess what I had? A phone call. Yes! I was skipping around the house. I had a phone call. Caleb had a letter. School hadn't even started. Who'd the letter come from? Who do you think? The teacher. Got a letter from the teacher. "Hi Caleb, heard you come into my class this year. I'm so excited to have you in my class. Love, Miss LeRae." How big do you think his head was? Because there's 6 other kids going to school in my house at the time. Did any of them get a letter? Nah. So who was skipping off to school the first day? It took that teacher 5 minutes to do that. 5 minutes to do that. And it set up for a fantastic year. Good teacher. The phone call to me was, "Donna, have you got some time to come in before school starts? I need to know how to work to get a wheelchair around in the classroom." What? She wants to talk to me about how she can get a wheelchair around in the classroom? And I just want to let you know, Donna, that I've rung Navita Children's Services and the physio that works with your family is coming too. I'm going, "You're kidding me." Wow. So the very first day at school, Caleb wasn't sitting in the back row of the class. He could get into the classroom with his wheelchair and his walking frame that he had at the time. And there was a seat for his nurse to sit next to him. And guess what I had the very first day? Timetable. Yes! Guess what she arranged? She arranged wheelchair sports to bring wheelchairs for a PE lesson. Every single child in the class sat in a wheelchair and played basketball. You talk to those kids in that class 2 years later, they remember playing basketball in a wheelchair. They then had this wonderful world that they could relate to with Caleb. "Oh, I didn't know it was so hard to push a wheelchair. Oh, I got my fingers jammed and I got my feet caught under the front. How do you catch a ball and wheel the wheelchair at the same time? You're so good at it. Suddenly Caleb became so good at something instead of being, oh, he's a kid who can't do anything. Never once did we come back to class and they weren't there. The teacher the year before used to give lolly rewards all the time. Caleb can't eat anything orally. I didn't even have to say to this new teacher. She only gave stickers out. Do you know the old teacher? She gave rewards every week at assembly for someone in her class. Caleb went through the entire year and did not get one reward. Not one. Now, come on, I'm sure you can find a reward for a child, even if he has the worst behaviour you've ever seen in the planet, even if he kicks and screams at you every time he comes into class in the mornings, even if he's so disruptive all of the time, I'm sure you can find one reward for this kid. Whether he's disabled or not, he is a person and he needs to be encouraged. How do we see disabled kids? Do you see them inside the square? Do you have them in a little box? Or do you see them as you see yourself, a valuable individual that has a lot to offer? They have a lot to offer your class, a lot to offer. Because even if nothing else, they'll teach you and the rest of the children how to relate. They will teach you how to be compassionate. They will teach you how simple life is. I quite often describe having Caleb as, with my other kids, I would notice the garden as I walked to school. I would notice the gardens that I walked past, and yeah, they had pretty flowers in them. Caleb used to, well, we would be so slow. We still are really slow when we go anywhere. I can actually tell you how many red roses there are in that garden and what they smell like, because he's actually made me stop and see what's going on in this world. We get too busy. Don't get too busy for these kids, because you will be the loser, because they have a lot to offer you. Now, hang on one sec. Right, I'm back. End of year excursion for the new teacher. A term and a half beforehand. Donna, can you come in for a meeting? Sure. Now, in a term and a half's time, I want to go to the pictures. I want to go to a little cinema, not events at Marion or, you know, some of those big ones. I want to go to the little ones. Like, there's one on, what's the name of one? Where is it? Good, up at Green Hill Road one, isn't there? There's a tiny little cinema up. Yes, yes. And there's another one at Glenelg, just a tiny little cinema. She said, I want to go to these little ones. Which one can we use? Because not all of them are disabled friendly. But I've done my homework, Donna, and I've got 3. And then we want to go to a playground. Did you know that kids with disabilities can't use playgrounds? How does a kid in a wheelchair get into a playground? Most of the playgrounds have bark chips around it. Try pushing a wheelchair on bark chips? Bit hard to do. Most of the equipment he can't get on. Have you thought about that? Interesting, isn't it? That's all right. That's all right, Mr. Ray, because I know there's one at Semaphore, a fabulous playground. There's one here and one here. Now, if we go to this cinema down at Semaphore, we can actually use that playground, and there's McDonald's there that the kids can go to after that, and the whole day was planned. How exciting is that? And guess who doesn't miss out? And we can order a bus. This kid had a great day. Simple, isn't it? Really, really simple. The same time we went into the front office. Lovely man sitting in the front office. He's actually studying to be a teacher. He's going to make a fantastic teacher. Caleb, do you love football? I'm surprised he hasn't come with his Port Power stuff on. Caleb, would you like to play football? Hello, he's in a wheelchair. Because, you know the kids in grade 2 and 3? They go and play football at half time. I'm a football widow. Okay, I've got a football family, but I'm a football widow. And so they were going to, at half time, at Port Power games and Crows games, they have all the little kids run out. Caleb, would you like to go and play football at Amy Stadium? And so this little kid comes home, Mum, guess what? I'm so excited. I can go and play football at Amy Stadium. I'm going, oh, great. Here you go. Really, he asked you? Oh, yeah, there was other kids there, Mum. But he asked all of us, and I'm thinking, yeah, Caleb heard probably that, you know, all the kids, but I'm sure they didn't mean Caleb. Because the school, you know, they've been good, but, you know. So I get this phone call from Craig. Oh, I hope it's all right, Donna. I told Caleb he can come and play football at Amy Stadium. I went, oh, great, Craig. I love you. Guess where we went 2 weeks' time? Half time, out he went. He had a little red walker. Had to move mountains. Off we went. Half time, he goes out into the middle of the football and plays football. He can't kick anything. He just runs around. I don't think they even passed to him. But how big was his head? Like, couldn't even fit through the door. Couldn't even get him in the car. He was so excited. Do you know what came out of that? Channel 10, we got a phone call 2 days later from Channel 10. Can we do a story on Caleb? Because they were all blown away, because here's this kid who has cerebral palsy running around playing football. They then knew he loved Port Power and loved Daniel Pearce. They organised Daniel Pearce to come in a helicopter to land in the middle of a football oval down at Christie's Beach. They organised 20 other little kids to come and play football with Daniel Pearce and Caleb. The whole day. He got, look, he's grinning now. He got a new Guernsey, he got a football, we got all these stickers and posters, and they came to our house, and we had like 3 days of it. It's the best experience. And then they did on Current Affair, no, which one was it? Today Tonight. See, that's why I bought Matthew. Today Tonight, they did this article. Rosanna did an article. She spent 3 days with us. She was captured by Caleb. She had 3 days with us and they did this show on him. He ended up, the night it was aired, he ended up in hospital sick. Do you know what? That's life-changing for that child. Where did it stem from? One teacher who said to one disabled child, do you want to play football? Who happens to be sitting in a wheelchair. Changed his world. Now I cry, so I'm doing good. It's only second time. It had a massive effect on our family. Massive effect. Since then, Caleb has had lots and lots of hospital stays, and this last one, as I said, was 5 months. Who do you think visited Caleb Croden in hospital? Daniel Pearce. Not once, not twice, 3 times. On the weekend, who got a phone call from Daniel Pearce? But one little boy sitting in a wheelchair Daniel telling him he'd broken his jaw playing football on Saturday. It all comes back to one teacher making one comment to one child in a wheelchair. Do you want to play football? You can actually change the way a disabled child views his world. Do you know that? You have the capacity to make his world fabulous. Do you know how that was like 2 years ago now? That's amazing. 3. Sorry, got it wrong. You can do that. I want to read you a poem because to me this actually describes you. You're the master. So listen to this. I have to put my glasses on. I'm getting old. I didn't forget them, no. You thought I might have forgotten them. Oh, we nearly need to finish. A water bearer from India had 2 large pots that hang from each side of a pole which he carried across his neck. One of the pots had a crack in it, while the other pot was perfect and always delivered a full portion of water at the end of the long walk. From the stream to the master's house, the cracked pot arrived only half full. For 2 years they went on daily, with the bearer only delivering only 1.5 pots of water to the master's house. Of course, the perfect pot was proud of its accomplishments, perfect to the end of which it was made. But the poor little cracked pot was ashamed of its own imperfection and was miserable that it was able to accomplish only half of what it had been made to do. After 2 years of it, perceived to be a bitter failure, it speaks to the water bearer by the stream and said, "I'm ashamed of myself and I want to apologise to you." "Why?" asked the water bearer. "What are you ashamed of?" "Well, I have been only able for the last 2 years to deliver half of my load because the crack in the side caused the water to leak out all the way back to the master's house. Because of my flaws, you have to do all this work and you don't get full value for your effort," the pot said. The water bearer felt sorry for the old cracked pot, and in his compassion he said, "As we return to the master's house, I want you to notice the beautiful flowers along the path." Indeed, as they went up the hill, the old cracked pot took notice of the sun warming the beautiful wild flowers along the side of the path, and this cheered the cracked pot up. But at the end of the old trail, it still felt bad because it had leaked out half its load again. So again it apologised to the bearer for its failures. The bearer said to the pot, "Did you notice there are only flowers on one side of the path, but not on the other? That's because I've always known about your flaws, and I took advantage of it. I planted the seeds on the side of the path, and every day while you walk back from the stream, you have watered these seeds. For 2 years, I have been able to pick these beautiful flowers to decorate my master's table. Without you being just the way you are, you would have not had this beauty to grace this house. Each of us have our own unique flaws. We are all cracked pots. But if we allow it, we can actually produce something of great worth. As a teacher, you will be able to see the strengths in a child, and you will be able to put them to amazing ability. You will be able to see, if you take the time, the amazing gifts that each child has, because you have an amazing gift inside of you. You can only be a teacher if you have this amazing gift, and if you feed it, and if you cultivate it, and if you study it. The only way you're going to be able to help these children is if you study, if you see where you can find help, if you find out from a teacher in the school who you see makes a difference in another child with a disabilities world. Talk to them, find out where they get the information from, where they get the materials from. How do you downsize particular papers? How do you make them larger? You can't have a child sitting there and the rest of the class is colouring in. How do I give them some extra work? How do I change things? And the person with the most information, the most answers to all of these questions is a parent. Caleb did colouring in before he went to school. He learnt to cut with scissors before he went to school. He learnt to hold a pencil. He learns to get around because I had to teach him that. So parents know what to do. Ask questions. Talk to us. And there's just one other thing I'd like to say to you. It made me laugh. It was number 6 going to school. Their very first day, Melissa. Teacher comes up to me, she puts her arm around me. I'm an absolute mess. Tears, mascara, everything's going everywhere. She comes up, she puts her arm around me, she goes, "It's all right, dear. I know what it's like to have your first child go to school." I thought, oh, I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to say anything. You might see a parent who's a blubbering mess. Don't throw her out with the rubbish. She actually can help you. You mightn't see the parent because, like my beautiful friend, she's got 3 out of 4 kids who are disabled. She can't get to school. Don't think she's a parent who doesn't care. Get on the thing called a telephone. You might see them not looking like me today. I was up at 6 o'clock to look like this. I don't normally look like this. If they're walking around and they look horrendous, don't judge them. They might have been up all night. Some nights I'm up 8, 9 times to Caleb, and I still have to get up the next morning, go to school and take the kids. And I look horrendous. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. If I yell and scream at you, don't be offended by that, because I've had a rotten time. I've just had 6 months in hospital. I didn't leave my son's side once. So you can imagine when I got to school, I wasn't the nicest person to be around because I was still adjusting to life. Don't judge me because I might be crabby with you, or I might yell at you. I've probably had enough of being abused in the car park because I've used the disabled car park and people don't think I should. But don't judge us. Work with us. Work with us. And we can actually be your very best friend for the year. My time's up. Before I go, you're all going to get a freebie. It's a book. There's no such thing as a silly question. A couple of years ago, I was in hospital with Caleb, and it's been put together by Child and Youth Health. And for once, the government listened to us parents, and actually got us parents to write down questions that we had when our child was first diagnosed with a disability. They're really silly questions, as the title said. Read this book. I don't want you to throw it in the cupboard, all right? Don't throw it in the cupboard. Before you have a placement in a special school, read this, because you will get the answers that you need. And it's full of information as well about where you can get help. It's to a parent. But if you understand us parents, you will get the information from this book and you'll have a better understanding of us. So please take the time to read it. Don't you dare throw it away, okay? Because it took me hours and hours to read through this and to correct things and change things. There was a group of about 6 parents who've done it. So please read it, okay? Grab it on the way out. Thank you, Debbie. Oh, I didn't cry too much. Not too bad.
Thank you so much, Donna and Caleb and Matthew. I know we're running really late. Are there any quick questions you might want to ask Caleb, Matthew or Donna before we go?
So, 2 quick questions. The first one, the experience from the bad teacher to the good teacher. The bad teacher was your first time into a school with Caleb, and the experience with the good teacher was reflected between both. So all the frustrations and everything you put up with, you didn't really realise until you had the good teacher.
Yeah, I didn't realise how bad it was until I got the good teacher. Sadly, we went from bad teacher, good teacher, horrendous teacher. And I changed schools. Because I knew what it can be like. I knew how stress-free it can be. And from a parent's perspective, the bad teacher on the first occasion and the third occasion were the most stressful years I've had in putting my kids through school. It doesn't need to be like that. And I think that's why I actually changed schools in the end, because I knew I didn't have to put up with being treated like that. Caleb certainly didn't.
So now that you can identify that,
Yes. Some schools really love to hear that feedback, and the school that we've just left didn't even reply to my letter, which was really nice. But some schools are really happy to work with you and change. The school in the very beginning, the first teacher in reception grade 1, actually the school employed a psychologist to work with her once a week for 3 terms to try and help her to adjust and to cope with a child with a disability, because they wanted to try and educate the teacher. Sadly it didn't work, but at least the school were happy to do that.
Just a second question quickly, probably more to Caleb. Does that mean Daniel Pearce is out this week? And if so, can you let us know any more info?
Good on you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. I'm sure.